Even after the breakup, it was still an absolute nightmare, and if Owen did anything as small as just talking to another girl, the anonymous bully would find that girl's phone number and then start sending threatening messages to her. The bully was also texting other people asking for their help in ruining Lauren and Owen's life. It was insanity, but what made it worse is that the bully seemed to know everything about them. First of all, they knew Lauren's nickname was Lo. They started calling her Lo, which was weird. They also knew the school gossip. They knew what Lauren was wearing to class, how she was wearing her hair. They knew everything. So Lauren and Owen, as well as their moms, are thinking, this has to be someone at school. This has to be someone that is friends with one of them or friends of someone, because they know way too much. And that's when Lauren, as well as her mom, thought that the person behind the messages could be Chloe Wilson. They thought that it could be Chloe because in a message that they thought was a potential slip up, a message from the bully was gloating about scoring 12 points at a basketball game. Kendra, who often ran the scoreboards at those games, looked through the records and saw that the only person who scored 12 points was Chloe Wilson. So Kendra took that information to the school saying, look, we figured it out, it's Chloe. And Kendra knew about every single message. She knew that her daughter was pretty much at rock bottom. She knew that she was crying all the time, and she saw firsthand just how negatively this was affecting Lauren. Kendra inserted herself right in the middle of this, often texting Lauren's friends, asking them to go check on her when she was crying at school in the bathroom. She would talk about it all the time to the other moms at the sporting events, talking about how awful it was. She would often show up at school in the middle of the day to bring Lauren a change of clothes when the bully was bullying her for whatever outfit she had on that day. She would spend hours on the phone with Owen's mom discussing what they should do, and when Owen's mom brought up a meeting with the school staff and authorities, Kendra didn't hesitate for a second. She immediately agreed and said, let's go, I'm coming with you. And she printed out pages upon pages to the school staff saying, this is too much, we need to put a stop to this. But the school couldn't figure out who it was. They tried everything. They looked through hours of CCTV footage trying to match up timelines of when the messages were coming in, looking at the cameras to try and compare what students were on their phones at the same time that the messages were being sent. Kendra, again in constant communication with the school principal, writing out detailed list of investigative steps that they needed to take, but they couldn't figure it out, and they couldn't track down the number. First of all, because there was a plethora of numbers, but also because the bully was using a VPN, meaning that the location was showing up on all different parts of the world. So that's when police officers stepped in, because these were now threats. They were no longer harmless messages anymore. Chloe's dad was not assigned specifically to this case, but he was a police sergeant, and from day one he said this wasn't Chloe. He said, quote, if Chloe is doing this, we severely missed something as parents, end quote. And he never believed that his daughter was behind all of this, but just to clear her name, he did take her cell phone for the cops to download everything on it, to search everything, and it came up clean. Those messages were not coming from Chloe. But Chloe's dad tells authorities, almost like a hey, just a heads up, he says, quote, I don't know if you know Kendra or not, but you really need to be cautious. There is a pretty good part of me that thinks that she may very well be doing this, end quote. And with that comment, authorities are thinking, Kendra, Lauren's mom, no way. But as they should, they bring this up to Owen's mom, not because they believed it, but just to sort of have all cards out on the table. They bring it up to Jill and ask her if she thinks if there's any world in which Kendra would be the person behind all of this. And Jill doesn't hesitate for a second. Immediately she says, absolutely not. It's not her. Next question. Another mom in town remembers thinking about the possibility of this being Kendra, but she too disregarded it completely. And she was even mad at herself for even thinking it in the first place. She remembers thinking, quote, how dare you think a mom would ever do that, end quote. Authorities got search warrants to search through multiple devices of multiple people, multiple students, and they still came up empty-handed, and that's when the FBI got involved. The FBI spends months looking into this, tracking down everything that they can. I mean, they literally have cyber specialists whose entire jobs are to be able to track down anyone and everyone, so they spent months trying to get the real IP address of where these messages are coming from. And after 18 months of this bullying going on, after multiple investigations, after so many people had hit rock bottom, they found what they were looking for, the exact address and the exact device that these messages were being sent from. They were certain that they had the person who was hiding out behind the screen because all of the evidence pointed to the same person. And who was that person? It was Kendra, Lauren's mom. Kendra, the same Kendra who had been working with law enforcement, working with the school to try and figure this out, Kendra, who had been holding her daughter when she was in tears over these text messages. Kendra, who stayed up late on the phone with Owen's mom discussing how terrible this was, how awful it was, how it was tearing their families apart. She had everyone fooled. It was her all along. Authorities show up to meet Kendra with a search warrant in hand, and they approach her and tell her that she is being investigated as the cyber bully. And at first she denied it, and the sheriff was like, come on, like, you're done. We have all the proof that we need. It's time to tell the truth. The sheriff then asks Kendra if she was infatuated with Owen, to which Kendra says, no, nothing like that. And then she starts talking, claiming that the initial messages did not come from her, but then she, quote, fed off from it and began to send them, end quote. And when they asked her why she continued to send them, she blamed stress and financial issues. Lauren was home at the time, and eventually they bring her into the conversation where she finds out that her own mother has been the person behind all of this. And when they're telling her, her mother goes up to console her. Sorry, if that was me, Mom, I love you so much. I love you so much. I would never talk to you again. And the look on Lauren's face, to me, looks like pure shock. When Lauren's dad found out as well, he was also in pure shock, also pissed, rightfully so. But it probably felt like that was just the tip of the iceberg for him, because it turns out that Kendra had been lying to her family about a whole lot more than just these text messages. Back in 2019, when Lauren was only starting 6th grade, Kendra told people that she was leaving her job at Central Michigan University for something better, but the truth was she had been fired for poor performance. She also told people about this new position that she landed at Ferris State, and she said that it came with a big pay bump that she was bragging about, but that was also a lie. In reality, bill collectors were already chasing her down for unpaid bills and insurance. That same fall, when Lauren started dating Owen, and around the same time that the anonymous messages began, the family had lost their house due to foreclosure, but Kendra didn't tell them that. Instead, she told her family that she just sold the house. By the spring of 2021, Lauren's 8th grade year, Kendra was already in trouble again at her new job. Her managers put her on a performance plan because they noticed that she was spending, quote, excessive time on personal text and phone calls. But then she quit, but then she didn't tell anyone. Instead, she told her family that she was going to be working from home when in reality, she had no job. And to keep up the act and to pretend, she would fake work calls when her husband Sean was around so that he wouldn't suspect anything. And if he ever pressed her about their finances or asked about it, because Kendra was the one in the family who did everything with the finances, if Sean ever asked about it, Kendra would just change the subject immediately to the cyberbullying and the messages that their daughter Lauren was getting. Meanwhile, the family's housing situation was unraveling. Kendra made excuse after excuse as to why she wasn't paying the bills. She would blame PayPal issues, cashier check mix-ups, whatever it was. But by that point, the eviction process had already started, and by April of 2022, just before the FBI task force joined the investigation, Kendra wrote to the court in regards to their house, stating, "We do not have any other place to go and are completely terrified of being homeless with our daughter." They were evicted that same month, but Kendra never admitted to it. She never told her family the truth. Instead, she came up with another lie, saying that the foundation of the house had cracked and that they had to move out while it was being repaired. So Kendra was lying about having a job. She was unemployed. She had been unemployed for a year, meaning that she would spend hours. She would spend her entire day, up to 8 hours a day, maybe 10 hours a day, sending